Good morning. So we have Jennifer Frahm with us from Australia. Hi, Jennifer.
Good morning, Caroline. Lovely to be with you.
I'm thrilled that you could join us for a bit of a chat about change communication with a real focus on consultative skills. And I think that's such an important area for practitioners to explore. And I know you've done lots of thinking and writing in this space, so very keen to explore that with you.
Yeah, I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Excellent. So maybe we can get started and you can just share a little bit about your own background. How is it that you got into the area of change communication?
Sure. I think looking back now, I tend to describe the situation as a bit of a snakes and ladders experience in terms of how I got into change and comms. So I started off, before I did anything academic, I'd been working in marketing and advertising roles, but always in organisations that were going through fairly massive change. So after a series of changes, the snakes and ladders, in those kind of comms roles, I decided to do my undergrad in organisational communication. What I found, a couple of subjects into that, was I sort of knew a lot of it because I've been working in it. So I did a double major then with a management degree, just to mix that up. And so I think what the academic space gave me really was a language and a structure, a framework for understanding my personal beliefs about organisational change in relation to communication, which really is that organisational change is constructed and facilitated and shaped through communication efforts. I think some of the differences that I've observed in working in these two fields, because I've worked in change comms roles, I've worked in change management roles, is that while the change communication skills are often focused on the creative expression, so message and meaning, the change manager skill sets often are more strategic and political because they're able to navigate the power bases, and I think I might be biased and you possibly might be the same, but when you have someone who is skilled in both change and communication, you really have a powerhouse for change.
Well, I am in total agreement with you, as you won't be surprised to learn. And I think increasingly this is what I'm seeing in the industry, that it's really that sweet spot of relevance of people who have fluency between communications and change. And we're working with many practitioners who really have a comms background and are looking to port those skills in the area of change management. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you would see as the essential skills that are required to really perform and contribute in that change management space.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think sense making is a huge part of the skill set of a change management consulting, and people with a communications background are often very strong at that because they've had to learn to understand the different audience positions on items before they can develop communications. Storytelling also becomes a really important skill for change management consultants so that you can engage people through the journey of change. Conflict negotiation is a really important role of the change management consultant, and it's the one area where people with communications backgrounds often fall down in. So my experience is people from a comms background are often very uncomfortable with conflict, whereas a change manager, you relish it. Once people are getting dirty and cranky and, angry about things, you have a strong emotional engagement in the change, and you need to be able to use that dissent and conflict for a constructive energy in the place rather than walk away from it. Mm-hmm. Project management. Need to be able to look at the big picture and map it out, what the structure is, break it down. And that's, whether you're looking at traditional waterfall methodologies of project management or agile, and, you're using shorter sprints and measuring in different ways, again, that becomes a very structural skill set that you need to have. Other than that, I think facilitation, obviously, is probably really important, and we often get a big debate in the space around, people say that change management, there's no such thing as managing change. You can't manage change. And I think one of the things that people mean when they say that is you can't control change. facilitation is a really important management skill. And so if that is your tool of change management, you absolutely can manage change. And then finally is rapport building. You don't have to have everybody like you as the change management consultant, but you need to be able to build trust with your stakeholders and the key people that you're doing with. So yeah, I think they'd probably be the essential skills that I'd be looking for in someone looking to do the shift between communications over to change management consulting.
Wow, that's just excellent, Jennifer. And I think such a useful insight, because you're picking up on something here that I've observed also, that many times communicators are frankly too nice. We have a posture of saying yes, jump, how high, and so on. And so this whole ability to be comfortable with the uncomfortable and navigate difficult conversations and have the courage of our convictions to really show up in that space is often not spontaneously our default posture, and may frankly be quite new and quite disorienting. I think that's really helpful insight. And so if we look at some of the main pitfalls that we might want to be mindful of, you've mentioned, for example, this issue of avoiding conflict that really is not going to be viable in the long term in a change management practitioner's stance. Any other comments on pitfalls, particularly for communicators to avoid when transitioning into a change role?
Yeah, I think for me the most important part of the consulting engagement is the entry point, and it's the pre-entry point. It's your discovery conversations when you're shaping up your statement of work with the potential client. And this is the point when you really need to challenge the client on what they think they want. So often a client will ask you for a strategy, but what they really mean is a plan. They want things stepped out and with dates that they can follow. And if at the end of that engagement you present them with this beautiful strategy and no plan, they're really, disappointed and arguing whether they should pay you or not. So I think being really diligent in that pre-discovery to understand what it is that they're wanting is really important. And keep in mind, it's not the client's fault. They're not experts in this. So it's up to you to be really careful with your questioning and, say things like, so when you say you want to change strategy, what would that look like? And be really thoughtful in extracting what the scope is of the work. The other thing I come across is clients thinking that they want a particular type of change consultant when it's actually a different type of beast that they need. And again, this is born from a lack of understanding about the space. It's not their fault. So they might think that they need someone who's got really strong business process re-engineering skills, where really it's a cultural change piece. And so again, it's the same, it's your questioning skills. So tell me why you think that you need someone experienced in BPR. And it may well be that the only experience they've ever had in change in the past has been of business process re-engineering. And you can sort of pull out what it means to be successful is what you need to be recruiting for. I think the third pitfall that we all experience is being bought in too late. So and this is one you actually can't do anything about at the time, because they obviously didn't know about you earlier, or they didn't realize that it was going to happen. And so often change management consultants get brought in when it becomes abundantly clear that the change is not going to work. And it's 5 minutes to midnight, so go out there and do whatever you do as change management consultants and make the change happen. Whereas the very best change work happens when you come in from design, and at the point when you're designing the change and the process of how you're going to do it. It's for this reason, Caroline, I think, and this is borne out again by the work you do, but it's I guess my challenge to your students is I actually think there is a moral imperative to educate the business world about the work we do and what good and great looks like, because there is no reason that change should be painful and uncomfortable and you know, that it's expensive and all those really bad things that get associated with change. The reason why that happens is because we don't have good quality people out there, and the clients and our clients just don't know what they don't know. And I really think whether, you know, one of the things your students need to be thinking about is once they've gained access to that environment, what are they then going to do to advocate and educate on what good change management looks like?
Such a great point. And I assume that when you're speaking of a change consultant role, this kind of insight, and again, the way in which we show up and contribute, is as relevant for practitioners like yourself and myself, who are external consultants, as it is for internal consultants. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that context, because many people struggle to delineate that relationship when they feel, well, I'm just a staff member, so I have to show up. Yeah,
absolutely. Look, I think my observation on that is that when you are internal, your ability to influence and advocate and educate is compromised by the political tensions of career. It is often a lot easier as an external to come in and speak your truth. And you'll get listened to it because you are external. It's an age-old weirdness of the consulting world that clients won't listen to their employees as much as they will listen to an external, and it's ridiculously unfair and it's ridiculously stupid, but it is. So what it means, I think, for the internal person is, yes, you have to be mindful about career progression in your company, but you also perhaps want to align yourself with an organisation which has values which are about being able to be transparent and authentic, because I can't imagine it's going to be much fun trying to do change in an organisation where you've got to temper what you say and how you say it. That would be, you know, really quite not fun at all.
Absolutely. And I think that is, again, one of the main differences between communications and change, because the nature of the difficult conversations that we get into as change practitioners means that we very quickly find out whether there's a fit there in terms of our values and alignment, or perhaps not, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Now, just perhaps the last question for you, Jennifer. If you had one main piece of advice for somebody really wanting to step up their practice and move into a change management role from a communications background, what would you suggest to really show up and add the most value?
Yeah. The pithy response is speak less and listen more. I think to extend that, I would say listen for disconfirming evidence. And what I mean by that is we all have cognitive biases, which mean we place more emphasis on pattern seeking and confirmation of what we've been told rather than disruptive patterns. And what I've found to be true in my experience is that the nuggets of gold in our change management consulting are always found in the disruptive patterns. So you speak what people can't see in the organisation, and that's often that really hidden level of where you get change happening.
That's so beautifully put, and really important insight. So listen, I really want to thank you for participating in our interview. I know that our participants at the Institute are going to get a ton of value out of your insights, and I'll certainly encourage them also to look up some of your work, including your upcoming book, which we are with interest as you work out loud online, sharing those insights with the community. So thanks so much for participating.
Oh, look, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity, and good luck with your students, or good luck to the students in the work you're doing.
Thank you.